Good morning from Juneau, Alaska. We are here for the day courtesy of Royal Caribbean Radiance of the Seas on a beautiful 7-night Alaska cruise. But today we are going on a fun excursion. After a quick lap around Juneau, we're going to go flying. And no, we're not taking this seaplane, even though it looks pretty cool. Today I'm going on my first ever helicopter ride. We booked this directly with North Star Helicopters and they picked us up and brought us to the airport. Now this is my first time ever flying on a helicopter, so I was pretty nervous. But those nerves quickly went away as we followed our partner ahead and took off down the length of the Juneau International Airport. As a huge av geek, it was pretty cool to get to fly down the length of the airport. However, on this flight, the scenery changes pretty quickly as we go from the valley that we sailed into between the mountains and turn left heading towards the massive Juneau ice field. We will soon say goodbye to the green trees and green hills and say hello to snow-capped and ice-filled peaks. I learned a lot of things on this flight. I had no idea the Juneau ice field was the size of the state of Rhode Island, and it feeds many glaciers around the Juneau area. Today we're going for a 30-minute scenic flight, so sit back and relax and enjoy some of the views before we actually get to land on the Mendenhall Glacier. Getting to land on the glacier is one of the coolest experiences I've ever had in aviation. Our helicopters took off, and now it was our turn to gear up and go on a 2-hour trek around the Mendenhall Glacier. It started off with a little bit of a walk to head across the glacier and start to find some of the interesting features. Of course, having a guide is essential as they take you over all of the rivers and crevasses, but just look at the beautiful scenery. After what felt like climbing probably a million different rivers and streams, our hike started to gain altitude as we headed back up the glacier towards the side where we started. Of course, there were some beautiful deeper lakes as we got into these more dramatic features. Make sure you bring a water bottle with you because you can dip it in the water, try some pure glacier water for yourself. Shout out to our guides for always looking for a safe path for us. Every time you come up the glacier, it's different. So it's an experience that's never the same for anyone, and I highly recommend it. This was one of my favorite spots as we saw these deep pools and got really close to the sharp edges of the glacier. You can see here the climbing got even more extreme. And at the end of the glacier, we were basically climbing through a wall of ice on either side. It got pretty dramatic towards the end. Basically felt like we were in a half pipe. But the higher we got, the views got way better of the jagged edges all around us. And of course the views of the entire glacier and mountain valley that surrounds us all the way back down to Juneau below. One of the best spots of the entire trek came right here at the end. It was like a blue lake of ice just in the middle of the glacier that you could stand on, take really cool photos. Honestly, it didn't seem real. Video doesn't even do it justice. Our pictures came out amazing from here, and it was the perfect way to end the trek. 2 hours flew by, so I definitely would not recommend doing any shorter of an excursion. But I also don't know if I would have been up for anything longer, because it gets pretty tiring hiking on the ice. So, finally, it was time to head back towards the helicopters. We had a small obstacle along the way. A pretty good crevasse had formed over here, but we were able to get around it, and our ride was back to take us to Juneau. The scenery on the way back to Juneau was just as spectacular. However, this flight is much shorter as we got it toward the beginning of our flight and now we're just heading back to the airport. The scenery was still beautiful as we turned left over the sea and headed back towards Juneau. I wanted to mention that North Star Helicopters operates this tour, and it includes both the helicopter flight and trekking on the glacier, as well as all of the equipment you'll need to safely hike on the Mendenhall Glacier. But before I knew it, we headed right back into the Juneau airport, headed to our landing spot, and we'll continue on our cruise. Thank you, North Star, for an absolutely spectacular experience, and I can't wait to fly with you again.